Good afternoon and welcome. Shut the door, please. Welcome to another Monday episode of Addiction Recovery Hope, capital H, capital O, capital P, capital E, and resources. And I've got a wonderful guest today, Tanner. I'm trying to share this on the Facebook, so it takes every week I do this. I'm a bonehead. I should learn how to do it without commenting on the radio, but we're getting it done. It's done. And so Tanner is a good friend. I've watched him from pretty much day one in his recovery. He went to a rehabilitation facility out here, and he's over 2.5 years. He'll explain where he's at, where he's been, and the person he's turned into today is quite a miracle, and I'm proud to have him on the show. And Tanner, tell us a little bit about yourself, then we'll get into what an amazing accomplishment you've done and what goals you set and your beautiful family. I want to hear it all. So give us what you got.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad to be here. This is exciting to be on a radio, especially with you guys. I love talking about recovery. I'm not shy about it at all. So this is awesome. I grew up pretty normal childhood. It was awesome. I grew up in the LDS church. Had a great family, still do.
Yeah.
But I was wild. I was always getting into trouble when I was a teenager. And I was just that black sheep of the family. I had 4 brothers, 1 sister. They're all awesome, never got into trouble like I did.
Yeah.
And, my addiction really started. I didn't even realize it till after I got clean, but this started off with prescriptions like for Adderall and stuff like that to help me focus because I was a hyper kid.
ADHD.
Yeah.
That's always a source in addiction. It's a big part of it. If you look back on most people have some sort of that.
Yeah. And so that was the start. It never really, I was on that prescription for 4 years and I just would always run out early. And I didn't even know I was addicted. But about my senior year, I was kind of tired of taking it and being dependent on it. And I just stopped taking it. And for a year or so, I was preparing to go on a mission. And then I never really had a testimony for myself. I never really had a connection with Heavenly Father. And so I started a party and started to hang out with new people. And I thought it was awesome and started drinking. And right away, I loved alcohol. It got me out of my shell. I felt like people liked me more. It was awesome. And, when you first start drinking, you don't know you're an alcoholic right away. And within the first couple months, I knew I was an alcoholic. I wanted to drink every day. I wanted to party all the time. That's all I really cared about. And I had this whole new social aspect come into my life, and it was new and exciting. And then
Tammy talks a lot about same stuff. Sorry, I want to get wifey in here. Tammy talks a lot about it gave her a voice. Her addiction gave her a voice, and it gave her power, and it gave her a social life, and it does at first, right?
Yeah, it did. I felt a lot more confident, and I thought I liked who I was better while I was drunk or on whatever substance. And, the drinking turned into smoking weed and turned into occasionally using pain pills and, my just experimenting for the first little while. And then eventually I got sucked in to where I was dependent on it. At first I wasn't ever hungover. I could drink and then go to work and everything was fine. But eventually I started feeling sick and would start drinking the next day earlier and earlier. And the alcohol kind of took over my life. Started drinking all day, every day. And ever since I started drinking, I don't think I ever stopped. I was drinking every day for many, many years.
I said that I was at the same point where I can't remember putting 2 days sober together of not drinking. I drank every day.
No, it was a lot. And the drugs came in. I remember I wanted to, stop drinking, and the withdrawals were so bad that I'm pretty sure I almost died. I never went to the hospital or anything, but I tried, I knew of some guys that had painkillers, and I started taking painkillers, and I'm like, okay, I can get off alcohol now. And then I got addicted to those.
Yeah. Traded one for another.
One for another.
Yeah.
It's a classic
Common
thing in addiction is you cross addict. And then I got, those just took me out. That's all I cared about. That I blew all my money, so much money on pills that it would make you sick if you knew how much I really spent on those things.
Yeah.
And
it's a sad life because, I mean, you can't go on vacation.
No.
And if you do, you got, okay, I'm going on vacation for 4 days. I need X amount of this pills, and I can't run out, and I got to keep it back by this time on this day.
Right.
You have a whole plan. It's crazy. It's insanity.
Yeah. I would try to make it to Thanksgiving, and, it'd stress me out because I'd have to stack up on those drugs just to maintain, to not be sick.
To actually be normal, actually.
Yeah.
People think of a addict being in the gutter, but they actually can socialize with people, and they, I mean, it's not like you're out of it. You're just doing it to actually be normal.
Yeah. And you try and quit because you realize how much you're spending, and you realize you can't even function without it. And then you're just hooked. And, there's a lot of controversy that people, is it a choice or disease? But, at first for me, it was definitely a choice. And it wasn't a big deal. But once I got sucked in, I was so sick without it that I would have done anything just to maintain, I didn't even care about being high. I just wanted to not feel sick. And so that went on for a long time too. And I was still drinking and using pills. Eventually, I'd start drinking again real fast.
Yeah.
And, it turned into, your dealer or whatever runs out of pills, and then there's heroin around. And then it just turned into a full-blown heroin addiction. And
less money, but then you end up doing
less
more.
money, and then you just do more, and you spend the same amount, and it just makes you sicker and sicker. And
lie, chill, and steal to get it. Lie, steal, and cheat to get it, right?
Right.
It's an ugly cycle.
And so, everything I had before I started using and drinking, I blew it. I stopped caring about my friends, my family. You lie to get more drugs, and the stories you come up with on why you don't have money are just insane.
Yeah.
And my poor family, I'm glad we're good now, but I still, feel really bad for what they had to go through, because it's not just me, it's my whole family, and there's a lot of people that care about me that had to go through this thing too. And so
I can assure you, Tanner, I know your family, or some of them, and they could give a care less about where you were. They're just so happy where you are.
Oh, definitely, they are.
Yeah.
But talking about it, it's like, wow.
Yeah. It's shameful, but got to put it in the past.
But we're good now, and I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I got to a point where I was so sick of it. I was so sick of getting arrested all the time. My criminal history is just ridiculous. I got two DUIs within the first year of drinking. So I didn't have a driver's license for like 7 years because I kept driving, kept getting arrested, kept having to wait to renew it. And then I got sucked into drugs, and I never had money to reinstate my license. So it's just a vicious cycle of...
Right.
It was really hard to try and maintain a life, but it got to the point where, I wanted to quit. I was sick of it. This is, years of addiction. I'm ready to stop. So I tried moving away from my problems, tried moving cities. That doesn't work. You just end up searching for it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then...
if you want to, you'll find it.
You'll find it. And tried methadone clinics to get off heroin, and that takes it away for a little bit. For me, it might work for some people, but for me, I was still struggling with my behaviors. I was angry. I was resentful. I got arrested probably more when I was coming off of heroin, when I was somewhat clean, than I did when I was on drugs. Trying to deal with myself, trying to get clean was just miserable. And so my parents were, at that point, they knew about the heroin addiction and knew how bad it was. And they were helping me with the clinic and helping me any way they could. But I just couldn't stop rebelling and getting arrested. So the last time I got arrested, well, the second last arrest, I got in a big old family fight. I got in a fight with my little brother. I got arrested for assault, and I was in jail for 30 days, and no one would bail me out on $100 bail. And that hit me, wow, I have no one. I can't believe this. I'm pretty messed up. I got out of jail. I relapsed. I didn't even really plan on staying clean, but I did drugs really hard to where I probably almost died. Got arrested again for possession. And at that point, I'm like, hey, this is all on me. I can't blame this on anybody else anymore. And I did the hardest thing I ever did, and that was ask for help. And I'm like, I'm ready to go to rehab. And
That's hard.
I was ready. I was ready to go. I wasn't fighting it anymore. So I went to rehab for 45 days. And
where'd you go?
I went to Lionsgate.
Yeah.
With the Talbots. And
Tokerville?
Yeah, Tokerville.
Yeah.
And it was a good experience. I've never been to a rehab like that before. I went to rehab when I was like 15 for a year and a half. But I didn't learn the things I did at this rehab. So I already knew a lot of the tools about sobriety and what behaviors, what I need to do, what's wrong with me. But I never found the spiritual aspect of myself. I thought, my family's really LDS, and I participated, and tried, and I just felt like God didn't talk to me, or I couldn't pray without getting answers. I just felt like I was a special case to where, it's not going to work for me. So at first in recovery, when everyone's talking about God and spiritual stuff, I'm like, this can't be the answer. I wanted some magical pill to take my addiction away.
Right.
And, slowly but surely, it was my last resort. I kind of opened up a little bit to the idea. We started going to those meetings. We went to LDS ARP 12-step meetings, and also AA and NA. And I'm all for recovery in any program.
Yeah, so
I like them all. I'll still go to a variety of recovery meetings, and I think they're all great. But the spiritual thing was really hard for me to grasp. And so it took a while. Once I got out of rehab, I did a 13th step to where I wanted a date, right away. This girl liked me and I liked her, and I still hated myself. I'm like, wow, someone actually likes me. And I think it's pretty common in recovery that people start dating, right away.
Yeah, and we talked about that in recovery right away. A month into our game of being in recovery, we think we don't understand what emotions feel like, and so we think everything is good and everyone is loving. It's just, you're so full of emotions that it's not easy to not want to date.
Right, and everyone works their own program and whatever works for them. I've seen recovery and relationships in many different ways, but for me, it wasn't a good choice. I needed to work. I needed some time to myself to work on recovery. And with two fresh, sober addicts trying to make it together in this world, it's just...
it's a train wreck.
It's a train wreck.
Yeah. I remember the best thing I ever did, I went 2 years without dating. And it was hard because I had been married 2 other times, and I'd had many, many, many relationships, and it was what you're used to, and it was very lonely, but it was the best thing that I ever did to get to love myself, to know myself, that I could finally love someone else.
Right. And so that was my first lesson in recovery, is take some time for yourself.
Maybe you can love a plant.
You can love a plant, and I was told,
point.
have a plant for a year and have a dog or a cat or an animal for a year. I didn't do that, but it's something you could do.
That's ideas. Everyone's recovery is different, like you said.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't.
And if you're not good at loving a plant, I've heard of a cactus. Love a cactus.
Yeah, they're very easy to take care of.
And they'll hurt you. Still.
Yes. So that relationship fizzled out, after probably 6 months. I'm glad it happened. I did learn a lot. I don't think it was a mistake. I learned some lessons, and that the lesson was that you need to take time for yourself. That's when I really got into recovery, when I had a moment to myself, and I was going to meetings a lot. I was pretty lonely, but not terribly lonely at this point. I still had some friends in recovery. I was working a lot. But I started working step 3, and you move on to 4, and you just start, it's not about drugs and alcohol anymore. You're changing
Your habits, your behaviors.
Behaviors, everything's new, trying to connect with God. And, you're starting to see all these blessings pour in once you're open to the program, and you get your 30 days or 60 days, and eventually you stop counting. You're like, wow, how long has it been now?
I just checked last night. I'm like 2,060 or something.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And, the steps are incredible. I know you've talked a lot about the steps on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I want to talk about the steps right now is that spirituality that was the difference in every attempt that I've made to quit. The only thing that changed this time was I allowed my Heavenly Father to help me make some changes in my life. And to have that power changed everything. And I went to these meetings a lot, and, I have all these new friends and all this support. I have overwhelming support. And, you start working these steps, and your family starts coming back into your life. At least it did for me. And they start seeing the changes, and, you start to get the trust back. I started to excel really fast in my job, and, with the spirituality part, I had to pray on every choice I made. And it ultimately led me to do everything that worked for me. And there's a lot of tender mercies that I've had in my recovery. I'm naturally an idiot when it comes to me making decisions.
Ding, ding, ding.
I had to learn a lot. I'm still learning a lot. But with Heavenly Father on my side, I make much better decisions than if I were to just make them by myself. And so I know we want to talk about family and happiness and sobriety. So
yeah, I want to hear about what you've been in recovery quite a bit. You've found the person that is amazing for you, the perfect one, just like I did with wifey.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful to watch what you're doing with your stepdaughters that are really, you just treat them like your daughters, and they adore you. And talk about what happiness has came.
My happiness came first before I got into a relationship with my wife, and I was just a happy person. I wasn't even looking to date anybody. She wasn't looking to date anybody, and we met, and we had the intentions of being friends, and we just fell in love with each other naturally. I didn't go out searching for it, and I think for me that's what needed to happen. The more I looked, the more I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And so My wife's amazing.
Oh,
We've
you married up. That's what
I
everyone always
definitely
tells you.
married up.
Everyone always tells
Yeah.
me, Heston, you married up. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I got lucky.
Yeah.
But it's because we were living right.
Yeah.
And I'm 5'7", and he's only like 5'4".
Short
so.
joke. Never misses one.
Well, I'm a little taller than her, but I definitely married up.
Yeah.
She has 2 amazing daughters that I call my daughters now.
Yeah.
And, you know, at this point in my recovery, I wasn't craving drugs and alcohol anymore. It wasn't even really on my mind. For me, it was learning how to deal with life, and this whole marriage thing was new to me. And being in a relationship and being a stepdad was totally crazy.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing. And every once in a while, I'd be like, what is going on? Because you go from being alone in your sobriety and working these steps, and then you just start getting, life poured into you. And I had to pray about, dating Ashley. I had to get those warm, fuzzy feelings from my Heavenly Father that, hey, you're making the right choice. She's for you. And, once we got married, it's been a learning experience on how to communicate and how to deal with certain situations. And with, with our girls, dating boys, and, they're at that age where, this is all new to me too.
Yeah.
So
What's right? We got to get
I'm
together
still learning.
and see what's right for them, for both of our decisions. Let's get together as one.
But
And agree.
That's the best thing about this whole experience is my Heavenly Father will tell me.
Yeah.
And
How cool is that?
that's how, recovery is hard at times, but overall, I say it's been pretty easy this go around because I haven't had to fight it.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone. And that's a big thing in recovery. You can't do this alone. You're powerless. And you're not alone because there's so many people out there struggling. There's so many people with, years of sobriety that can help you.
And there's strength in numbers.
Yeah. And you're not alone because you have your Heavenly Father or whoever you want to call it. But that's what I call mine, and that's what works for me. And so I'm super happy. I never thought that I could live a life where I'm happy without drinking or using drugs.
You have a great job.
I have a great job.
You have a house.
I have a house.
You never would have thought that.
I
know I'm in the same position.
I had people over at my house for Thanksgiving. Ashley's family came and stayed with us.
Yeah.
And, how does that happen? And, to look back through my whole recovery experience, there's definitely no question someone else, helping me like my Heavenly Father. I couldn't do this all by myself. I couldn't make these decisions, if I were to sit down and just try and make myself, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I go to places that help me think clear, and the meetings are awesome. Any type of meeting, I've been to meetings with you, and it's all just one big blessing. I'm so glad I found these meetings and the 12 steps. My wife is in recovery too, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about that as well because it's pretty common, I think. I wanted to talk about, maybe some pros and cons about dating other addicts.
Yeah. That's what I was telling you before the show. I promised myself I would never date another addict because two addicts together are explosive.
Yeah.
It can be dangerous, but my wife ended up being 12 years sober to me. So I rationalized that and said it don't count. Because she's like, cool. But yeah, I let that one go.
Yeah, it was a big decision because I wasn't sure. But overall, I felt good with it. She had a couple years clean.
She works a program.
She works a program.
She works it. You can tell when they have the light that's okay.
Yeah.
You're both working. Anyone that's working a strong recovery program, I don't care. Those are the right type of people to be with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would hear her share. I'm like, she knows what she's doing. But but it is risky. You know, I hesitated sharing, you know, positive, sharing my story, because I always, you know, when I first got sober, I always had it back of my mind, what if I relapse? And what if, you know, someone looks up to me and I relapse? What's that going to say to them, you know, about the capital H, capital O, capital P, capital E?
Right.
You know, that's what this whole thing is about. But it's risky, you know. I could relapse.
But what if I help someone?
Yeah, what if I help someone?
Change their lives.
Yep.
What if it doesn't matter? What if that by doing that and opening up your story to other people makes you more accountable?
Right.
That's what it did for me.
I had to learn that.
Yeah.
You know, and I started facilitating, and I realized, you know, that's what Step 12 is all about, you know, helping other addicts, getting the message out there. That's what I think this radio station's about right now.
It is.
You know, it's uncomfortable, you know.
The only reason I agreed to do this was because I knew I could help someone.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm grateful that you came on today. Tammy, what can you say to Tanner about his recovery and what you've watched?
We're human, you know. We're not perfect. We're gonna go through, you know, a whole life. We're gonna make mistakes along the way. Some of them are going to be small mistakes. Some of them are going to be big mistakes. We have the atonement. We have the 12 steps. We have, you know, we have the tools. One day at a time. You know, that's all we have is one day at a time.
Right.
That's all we can live.
I've been focusing on that exact thing.
Yeah.
ODOAT or something.
One day at a
ODO.
time.
And we can't worry about if we're going to make, you know, mistakes. I mean, that's a bridge that, you know, that's a bridge we'll cross if it happens. We can't worry about it, you know?
Yeah. And like I said, that's something I had to learn.
Yeah.
And I had to stop fearing relapse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it does happen if I couldn't let fear run my life anymore.
Yep.
And that's a big thing for me. You know, before I learned all this stuff, you know, I would let fear run my life. I would never decide to get married. I would never decide.
I think I helped push you that direction.
A lot of people
Every
did.
time I saw you. When are you going to marry
You're
her?
like, you're over 58 days. If you're over 58 days, you're wasting time.
51 days.
Or 51.
51 days.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's been awesome. It's been, I'm truly blessed to have the family that I have and to have my parents and that family back in my life. The happiness doesn't come from things anymore. You know, I used to have a nice dirt bike or whatever to make me happy.
Yeah.
Now it's spending time with family, and, you know, I love recovery meetings. It's something I'm passionate about. I find a lot of joy in those rooms.
Yeah, me too. I went last night.
Did you?
With our buddy Johnny.
You should come tonight.
I may. Let me see what I got going on, but I may. I don't never want to miss them.
Hey,
Oh, wait,
it might
tomorrow
save
night.
Yeah,
them
tomorrow
from
night,
a
sorry.
softball game.
No, we don't have softball tonight. It's our bye week. But I went to a meeting last night, and I wanted to bring this up before the show ends, is that there was 2 gentlemen in there. One was 11 months clean, and one was 4. He tried to say 5, and then he corrected himself and said, wait, I'm 4, which I loved seeing that when people correct themselves, because they're catching on to exaggerating, and it's a behavior, it's a practice, and it's
Right.
cool to watch people catch themselves and say, oh, wait, I have to correct that, which he did, and it wasn't a big deal, but for his recovery it is. But they both were struggling, and the reason why they were at that meeting was because it's the holidays, and they feared using, and even though they had time under their belt, you know, the holidays is a tough time.
Right.
The holidays, it can be a tough time for addicts, and the shorter in recovery, the harder it can be. You know, you've got family stresses. I've got to buy this for my brother or sister and my parents. I got to get them a gift, and it can be hard, but it can also be a good time. So if you're struggling around this time of year, get to meetings, open up to your
Definitely.
sponsor, call someone, get into a conversation with. Call me, heck, I don't care. Facebook friend me or whatever, but get through the holidays clean, and I promise you'll enjoy your life and have a quality of life. Tanner, I've watched you and Ashley's recovery, and I'm so grateful to be your friend. You are inspiration to anyone I know. The first meeting you went to, or probably the first 6 months, I don't think you ever said a word because you didn't know what you were getting into. But slowly you opened up, and slowly you've turned into the man you are today, which is the most respectable, dependable, quiet, best kind of person you could be. And I give you props for what you've done in your recovery. And we are out of time. Yep. So I wish we could do this again. We'll have you on again. Yeah, I told you it goes by fast. But we'll wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next Monday. And we hope you share, like, and comment on this on our Facebook and YouTubes, and so we can get the word out there. We've reached over 40,000 people in 21 shows, and really 2 of them didn't have technology. So we're doing good. We're helping, and I hope we're helping, and I pray that more people will join us in a battle for recovery. Thanks again, Tanner, and thanks, wifey.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks.